Okay, I am live. Let's get the music going. I love that music. Someone brought it up in the stream the other day that we brought up a song by Paul Anka. It was a cover of Billy Idol's Eyes Without a Face. And if I could, I'd play that as the background music to start my streams off because I love that song. Okay. It's Monday morning for me. It's 7:30 in the morning. Full Caber, hello. Good to see you. Let me just arrange a few windows so that I can see things correctly. Every time I stream, I really tweak my Eddie Valros. Good to see you, Eddie. Good to see you. And let's see. Do I have? Oh, let me send the announcement to my Discord. I'm really, like I said, every time I set up my my streams, I modify my setup, and I've got an even more optimized setup that should be easier for me to stream. Well, thanks for joining, Eddie. Anytime, even if you're here for a little bit, I appreciate it. Cami Luna's here. Cami Luna, I watched your stream, the entire stream, by the way. I wasn't, because I was actually watching somebody else's stream when you were streaming last night. So this morning I watched it. And you'll see I left a comment. In fact, Cami Luna, you are the reason I am streaming right now. Because in your stream, you mentioned Windows Ink. And you very kindly linked to a document that I wrote about it. And I updated the document and made me realize I need to get a video out. I absolutely have to. And I need to get some content about Windows Ink available. Because it is a difficult topic, right? And he says, never found a way to deactivate modifier key captions. So yeah, Camila, thank you. Modifier key captions for Windows Ink. Can you remind me, Eddie, when you say modifier key captions, I could interpret that different ways. Could you tell me with a little more clarity and specificity what you mean? Because that could mean multiple things in my head. So if you could just remind me, please. And Eddie, I do understand the Windows Ink hate. I do greatly sympathize with that. Let me just get my mouse in the right place because I'm going to do a little sketching. Okay. Actually, you know what? Yeah, sorry. I got to do something a little bit odd here. Control-Alt-Shift. And when you do that, Control-Alt-Shift, I'm like, do you see something when you show that? Full Caber says, my Wacom airbrush has arrived and I want to try to Wacom TOS Pro for 80, but I don't think I can get the wheel working on Clips GeoPaint. Paint. Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know if, apps have to know what to do with these features of the pen. If they don't, unfortunately, I don't have an airbrush. Actually, I do have an airbrush, but I have an older airbrush that doesn't work with the new Intuos Pros. Eddie, are you in our Discord? Because if you are, can you send a screenshot of what you show? And I'll put a link to the Discord there in a second. And I just got to do one thing here. I got to configure something. Let's see. We'll add a new page for show notes. Oops, typing in the wrong machine. Okay, don't worry. I'm gonna move this keyboard out of the way so I don't accidentally hit something. Here. Let's see. Okay, sorry, I'm just gotta get everything set up. First, let me tell the Discord crew that I'm online by getting There's so many things I have to set up. I have 3 displays all of a sudden, and I have to make sure 2, 1, and 3. 3 is here, apply. And I don't know why number 3 is. Let's fix that. It should be 1920 by 1080. I think. Yeah, let's keep it that way. Keep changes. There, it's a little easier to deal with now. Apply. Okay, that part's semi-solved. Yeah, I've just got to do a few more little changes here. Sorry, I'll get going. Actually, now that I've solved that, I need to get to pen and touch. So it just takes a little extra setup. To configure my hardware to do this discussion, because I want a whiteboard. And I need oh gosh. Okay. Let me see how to do this. Okay, I have another idea then. I know what to do. Sometimes you gotta be creative with these things in the middle of a stream. Extend desktop to 1 and 3. Keep changes. Great. Perfect. Now we're all set up almost. Okay, now I'll send the link to the Discord crew. This is my 3rd stream in 3 days. I think I did 2 on Saturday. Yeah, 2 of them. Okay. And, oh, it looks like a couple people joined the Discord. Let me just say hello to them. And let everyone know that I am on stream. And give my standard ping. Stream ping, live and on camera. There we go. Who else do we have? Just saw this. We have Ahmet. Just saw this while I was writing a script for a video review I'm planning to do for MatePad Pro 12.2. In it, I will compare it to the M4 iPad Pro and S10 Ultra. Fantastic. Fantastic. We need more comparisons like that. That's going to be very useful for people. Okay. Now what I want to do is show you my screen. Okay. And we are going to get, we need the whiteboard. There we go. Where's the whiteboard? I thought I clicked on it. Maybe I didn't. There we go. Oh. Sometimes when Microsoft logs things in, it's so complicated. Okay. So let's start with Windows Ink. Okay. And for this, let me begin with a blank canvas and move my keyboard a little bit out of the way. Okay. So I've been trying to explain this for years, and I have to admit, for the first time I tried to explain this, even I think it was I was making it more complicated than it needed to be. And this year I spent a lot of time reinvestigating the situation, okay? And I think I have a better way to explain it. I have a better pedagogy, okay? So I'm gonna use that with you in this stream, okay? And let me put my full face here. Now let's begin it proper. If this stream is for people who are artists to understand this thing called Windows Ink and the consequences it has if you use a drawing tablet. Because if you use a drawing tablet on Windows, you are, 100% it's guaranteed, you are going to run into a situation where you will see this word and you will have to interact with it and you'll have to do things. This is guaranteed if you're a Windows user and you're using a drawing tablet. Absolutely no doubt. Mac users are unaffected. This is a Windows only problem. And I'm going to give you enough. First, we'll start off with just enough background about what Windows Ink is, so you understand what its role is, and we'll understand the ecosystem of things like Windows Ink. Okay? Full cable you're drawing right now, always good. Okay, and again, we're going to start off with how just artists and creative people should think about it. There's a technical discussion, which we may get into, but that'll be toward the end of the stream, okay? But I'm sure some of you might ask questions earlier. Go ahead and just ask them, and we'll either answer them immediately or we'll delay until later, okay? So, let me get back to the whiteboard. And we need to elaborate on a few things. First, let me get this... Okay. The first thing I just want you to see, literally want you to see this, is what's in front of me. Okay? And I'm going to be drawing on this, and this is not a Wacom or a Huion. Oh, I see, Eddie. I don't. Okay, you're using a Huion. Okay, let's investigate this once I get past like that, when I explain the basics, and then we'll take a look at it. That's a good point. And I'll put that in my notes, that sometimes people get these little, you may see certain artifacts, behavioral artifacts. So let me find my notes here, my show notes. And let me close these other windows and put my show notes together. Sorry, I know you all cannot see exactly what I'm doing, but we'll get there in a second. There we go. Okay. So let me just type in the show note date, and I'll show you what I'm seeing here. Okay. What is it? 2025 11/9, I believe. No, 10. Okay, that's Windows Ink. And then I'm going to just screenshot this so it's easier for me to remember. Cami Luna, by the way, I didn't mention it, but I noticed some things as you were drawing. First of all, I love your style. Let me just say that, so there's no doubt. It's so well done. The second thing I noticed is you're very efficient as you draw. Like you've got great control over the strokes. So I really appreciated the time watching it. I can't draw as cleanly or as fast as you. Okay, so let's get back to the whiteboard. So I want to some of you speak, again, we're starting with how to explain this to normal human beings, okay? And the way I figured out how to explain it is to use an analogy, okay? And to begin with this analogy, I need you to see my desktop, okay? And what you're seeing is not a Wacom or a Huion. You're seeing an Asus. It's a pen display. Okay, so it's like a Wacom tablet. I can use a pen on it. I'm using a Samsung S Pen actually. And there's a single cable going from the left side going into my PC, which you can't see on the right, okay? Just a single cable. Now, I did not have to install drivers for this, okay? I just plugged it in and this worked, right? And that's kind of interesting. That reveals something to us, and let's talk about that. It reveals that the computer already knows how to deal with this class of device, and this class of device knows how to talk to a computer. Okay? The glass is so close. Okay, I'll move it out of the way. It's a very big glass. I need to stay hydrated. So let's just back up and talk about what has to happen. You know, there's an operating system, okay? And you know, it has to talk to a tablet, right? And you're seeing me write, okay? And basically, there are components here. You know, there's a driver here, and there is a driver. There's actually some built-in driver. Safety, yes, full caber. Yes, full caber. And then but we could talk about USB and protocols and all these things, but the key thing is that let me bring the camera down a little bit. I love that textured ink brush. I've not been using one. I've just been using a very plain brush, but I love the way it looked with your art, Camilina. Okay, so these know how to talk. Okay, so let's think about these as people. We can say that they talk a specific language over that cable. Okay, that's the way I want you to think about it. I want you to think that they already know how to talk to each other. They know the same language. Okay. And you know what? I'm going to actually, I wasn't going to project like this, but this is kind of fun to do it as a video instead of a screen share. So I'm actually going to double down on this and zoom in a little bit more. Okay. So let's get to our next whiteboard. This is something I wish the Microsoft Whiteboard was faster at. Okay. Blank canvas. Okay. Now, I want you to think, now that I've said the word language, I want you to think about how humans work. And I know this sounds like I'm just delaying this, but trust me, unless you understand this, you're not going to understand what's going to happen. So we're going to just pretend, how do humans communicate, right? We speak human languages. So I want you to pretend you've got two people, okay? And we'll talk about, I don't know, somebody here. I'll put me, okay? That's my glasses. Okay? There, I got a little bit of a smile. And some glasses on, okay? And you've got another person here. I'll make some hair here, right? I'm going to call her Lisa. Now, I want you to think about the situation here. Obviously, we both speak English, right? Then there is no problem, right? Any two people who speak English can communicate to each other, okay? And what happens, though, if there's a level of bilingual behavior? So I'm not bilingual, really. I know enough German to get by, right? But the important part is I am open to speaking to in either or German to anybody, okay? So that's my behavior. Let me erase this a little bit. Where's the eraser? I think it's this thing. Yeah. Let me erase this. And let's draw this a little differently, right? So I've got a slot for English. And Lisa here, that's a random name I picked. I don't know why I picked it. She also has a slot for English, okay? And I am willing to speak in English and German, okay? And Lisa is also capable of speaking in English and German. Now, I don't know what she's going to choose. For the sake of argument, we will say that she's in charge of the language we speak. Okay? And by the way, I will be playing the role of a tablet. Sorry, I will be playing the role of the Windows machine. And Lisa will be playing the role of the tablet. Just to get this ready for you. Okay? So, but Lisa is in control. So Lisa controls the language. Lisa determines which language we will speak. We will talk in. We'll talk in. Okay? So this is the situation, except there's one tweak. We both have a difference of how we are configured to talk. You can consider, for example, that Lisa is like a robot or something, right? She will either speak in English or German, but she will not talk both at the same time. Okay? She's either going to speak one or she's going to speak the other. So for her situation, it's an either or. Right? Like when she enters the room, she'll either be talking English And she could leave the room and come back in German, but in the middle of our conversation, she will not switch. Okay? And only she controls. Okay? In my case, I start off bilingual. Okay? Here you can kind of think of me as a robot as well. And except, I will always respond to people in English, no matter what, right? If anyone comes into the room, I will speak to them in English. But I will optionally, because I'm uncomfortable speaking German, if you turn on my German mode, I will also respond to people in German. Okay? So you get it? Lisa picks what she wants to speak. I will always speak English. But if you want me to, I will also speak German. But if you don't want me to, you put an X there, and I will only speak English. Okay? That's the situation. Okay? And the same is true for, let's get some comments here. Let's take a look here. Full Caver says, my curse is that I like to do small detail art, even when the drawing still is. I hear, I'm a little bit that way myself. You want to hear my kryptonite is backgrounds. I have no patience for backgrounds. I just want to draw the character. That's it. That's a skill I need to learn. Cami Lewis says, I'm glad you're using German as a comparison because most Spanish speakers in the US just break out this. Right, okay, that's right. I've seen that. Well, I want you to know, I only speak really English and a little bit of German. And my family speaks Hindi and Telugu. So when we get together for Thanksgiving, they all are speaking Hindi and Telugu. But I can kind of understand a lot of what they say because there's lots of words. They flip into English a lot for just specific words. Okay, so let's remember again. I will always speak English no matter what. But you can tell me to be prepared for a German conversation, and I'll do that also. Lisa controls the language we'll use, and she will only speak one at a time, and she'll never randomly switch when she gets into the room. Right? She will either be speaking English when she gets to the room, or she'll be speaking German, but not switching. She might leave the room and switch, okay? This actually explains Windows Inc. This explains everything about Windows Inc. I'm going to make this I'll make this more clear, okay? So, we're talking about languages. So now let's get to what Windows Inc. actually is. And I'm giving you a little bit of a higher level explanation. So in Windows, there are two languages. Okay? Languages, sorry. The first language we'll talk about is called WinTab. Okay? Now WinTab is like decades old. This is it's been around for as long as I can remember using a drawing tablet. Okay? And it was made by, I think, a set of companies, but really you can say that Wacom defines WinTab. Like they own it. They own the definition of WinTab. Okay. Now, however, it doesn't mean it's Wacom only because all brands, Huion, XP-Pen, SenseLabs, they all talk WinTab. Okay, so it's not Wacom only. It's just that Wacom defines the standard. Okay, and as the name implies, it's about using tablets with Windows. Now, what about Windows Inc.? Now, those of you who program on Windows and use Windows APIs, this is a little bit of a complex story, so I'm simplifying for this audience. You can consider these as being, the two languages, okay? Oh, there's one more thing about WinTab. It's a third party, meaning it's not, Microsoft does not make it. You have to install it on your machine. And we'll talk about how it gets there, which is pretty simple. It gets there when you install a driver. Okay? When you install a driver from manufacturer, it puts WinTab on your machine. It puts Okay, that's the easiest way of thinking about it. And every tablet driver will do that. Okay, we have another. That's right, I did see that, yes. Rain says, would Windows possibly explain why I had more line wobble in Windows versus MacBook? It is possible, but there are different ways of interpreting wobble, so we'll have to talk about that, Rain. Please remind me later and we'll get there. Okay, so what is Windows Ink? Okay, so again, you can think of Windows Ink as a language. It is new. Now, when I say new, I'm talking about, it's a little weird, okay? Because Windows, let me turn down the volume or something. This company that I used to work for called Microsoft, it has since the 2000s, maybe even since the late 1990s, because I worked there, we knew people would be using devices that incorporated touch, okay? And the name, and this is going to matter later, by the way, and we expected people to have something like I have a Samsung Galaxy S11 Ultra here. I'm going to just turn on so you don't see if it's a black rectangle. We expected people would have devices like this, okay? Except we expected to be running Windows and not Android. And everyone thought, oh yeah, people will be, writing with pens, and marking up documents and taking notes, and maybe even pressure sensitivity with the pens, and maybe even use touch. So the idea of Windows working with pens and touch was something we always thought about. And so that started an effort called, so I'm going to call this new-ish, right? Because actually the history goes back. A concept called tablet PC. And lots of tablet PCs were created. And then just in general, the tablet PC stuff got more and more merged into Windows. And then in Windows in 2012, so I would call this 2000s. And then we have Windows 8, and that was in 2012, where that entire feature set of dealing with pen and ink and touch got renamed into Windows Ink. Okay, so that's what this is. This is Microsoft's language, and it's built into Windows. Okay, you don't have to install Windows Ink. It's built into Windows. Let's see. That makes sense because Windows normally supports touch much better. Yeah, exactly. That is the exact reason. Windows has had over 2 decades of it's been over 2 decades of Microsoft thinking about how pen and touch would work with Windows, and it's been 13 years since Microsoft Windows has been designed to work on devices like this, like a Surface Pro, right? So you have to design your operating system to be aware of touch and pens, and that's why, generally speaking, touch works better on Windows. We've solved and figured out all the problems for a long time. Now, of course, I hope Apple will do this for their Macs as well. Maybe this will be the year we'll see touch-based Macs. So this is really, well, my writing was really sloppy. This is built in. That's what I'm trying to write there. It's built in, okay? So this is the language. Now remember my previous example? I was talking about English and German. So in that example, WinTab is older. So basically WinTab. I messed that up, okay? WinTab is like English in my example before. And my German example represented Windows Ink. And by the way, I will have a tendency to say Win Ink, right? Just so it's sort of parallel with WinTab, I'll say Win Ink. But there is no formal name Win Ink. I'm just saying this in this video, okay? So this is the setup. Windows Ink is a language your tablet uses to talk to, communicate with, your operating system, Windows, and applications. And WinTab is another language, okay? Now, let me tell you, I'll tell you exactly how to configure your operating systems. But before we do, let's try to explain why this tablet's working, because I installed no drivers. And that's because you don't really need the drivers to be installed. If your hardware just tells Windows it's a tablet and it's talking the right things on the wire, the Windows Ink will handle it. And that's what's going on here. The reason I'm able to draw on this tablet is because Microsoft Windows Ink is actually engaged and talking to this tablet. Okay? You say WinInk too, Camilina? See, I knew I was onto something. Okay, so that's how this works. Now, let's take a look at Windows Ink in drivers. And for this, in the drivers and the tablets. Because this is our fundamental dilemma, right? And I'll try to express it like this. In the driver, and this is so weird to see this, there is a checkbox. Actually, you know what? Let me draw this a little differently so this box is not misleading you. In the driver, there'll be a checkbox, okay? And by default, it'll be checked Windows Ink. It'll say enable Windows Ink or use Windows Ink. It's something like that. Or, of course, you can disable, right? You can uncheck it. And then also in your applications, okay? Now, applications get a little complicated. There are actually 3 cases, okay? And the 3 cases are, case number 1, app only talks WinTab. This is usually really old applications, okay? Case number 2 is app only talks WinInk, Windows Ink. That represents, there are not that many apps that talk only Windows Ink, but they do exist. I think, for example, OneNote is like that. And we can test it out, actually. Okay? And then number 3. This is the most common case. And this is really for drawing apps, right? This is for, or I'll call it creative apps. They give you a choice. Okay? Now, I'm going to draw it, and notice that I'm going to draw it as a radio button. Everyone knows what a radio button is, right? So it'll look like this. It's a circle with a filled-in dot, and it says Windows Ink, or at least conceptually that's what it'll be like. And of course there'll be a choice, which is WinTab. Okay? So, you can flip this to select WinTab. Okay? Now I know this seems really trivial. I know it seems crazy, but this is actually really complicated. And you're probably wondering, why do drivers show it as a checkbox? Why do the applications show it as a choice? Because the driver, and it's interesting, right? Like, notice that the driver does not say WinTab anywhere. Okay? And this is this is where the confusion really begins. Okay? So this is what they say. Now, let me give you, first let's start off with like what I recommend for you. Okay? And there's a more complicated case, but let me just tell you what I recommend. Oops, I want to create a new whiteboard. For creative apps, I suggest the following. Okay, we'll start with this, and it gets more complicated actually. on your driver, sorry, let me erase this. I want to make sure you understand what I'm writing here. This is my recommendation. Okay? And that means in the driver, I drew that wrong. I wanted to draw the check boxes. You should do this. Okay? That's what you do for the driver. For the application, I used to say things differently, by the way. For the application, between the two choices, you should choose Windows Ink, okay? Okay, this is the starting point. If you need, and we'll talk about how to switch to WinTab, because there is a way, okay? Now remember, this is a language analogy, so both parties have to be talking the same language. Okay, let me hydrate a little bit, and we'll get to the next part. We have to understand what this checkbox actually does, because it probably doesn't do the thing you think it does, okay? So let's get a new whiteboard and let's think about the checkbox. There's two cases, okay? So there's, let me draw it like this. So this is the driver, okay? Driver. There's a little bit of smoothing on this app, so it kind of messes up my writing here. When this is checked, WinInk, let me draw the check. Does ink. What does that mean? And when it's not checked, what does it mean? Right? How do we interpret these two things? Okay, this is where it gets funny. Okay, because you'll need to understand this to understand the rest of the video. What this actually means is driver talks both WinTab and Windows Ink. Okay? When you have this unchecked, driver only talks WinTab. Okay, Cami, thanks for us dropping by. I really appreciate it. Have fun. Okay? This will actually come back to us later. But there are reasons for why this is probably the best thing to do. But I just want you to remember this. The checkbox for Windows Ink, your drivers are always talking WinTab, but the checkbox lets your driver additionally become bilingual and talk Windows Ink, okay? So that's the driver. And now let's think about what this means. Let's see. Do I have a way of duplicating pages? Of course, they don't give you ways to duplicate. Why would they? Oops, I opened up the same page. Okay, I need a tablet here. Let's find one. Okay, give me a second, I'll be right back. Okay, I am back with the tablet. I have a Wacom Intuos Pro 2025 small. And let me just get a USB cable from another device here. We'll use it to connect. Okay. Okay, it's plugged in. Terrific. Now, let's take a look at the driver, just so we see. And this is Wacom. So, let me start Wacom. Or did I install another driver here? Oh, I installed XP-Pen, so I'll have to uninstall XP-Pen. No worries. Let me make sure you can see what I'm doing. Add remove programs. Let's uninstall XP-Pen for a second. Well, we'll take a look at it, actually. No, it's going to complain there's no tablet. That's one flaw in these drivers, huh? Let's just uninstall XP-Pen. Only take a second. Uninstall. Uninstall. There we go. Yes, I am sure. Some elements these can be removed manually. What the hell does that mean? I didn't like that. I did not like hearing that. Some elements could not be. That was scary. Okay, I'm just going to ignore that. Actually, okay, I'm going to pretend everything's just going to work. Wacom drivers. I've never seen that message, which is really interesting. Mm-hmm. Sometimes this website is so slow. The Wacom. I have my own list of Wacom drivers. So while I'm waiting for Wacom driver, yeah, I have my own list. But the page is finally up. Okay. Let's download 6.4.11.1. This is the latest one. And now, by the way, I'm doing something that I don't recommend doing, which is when I uninstall a tablet driver, I usually always reboot after installing and uninstalling. But I didn't reboot, but I'm going to reboot after this one because Wacom is going to force me to. And let's accept it. And I'm going to have to close some of these things because I know I'm going to reboot in a minute. So let's do that. And while it's doing that, I'll go ahead and just shut down some other apps so that the rebooting will be a little faster. Let me close this restart. Nope. Okay. There we go. Now it's rebooting. And you can see me talk. Yeah. Now that it's rebooting, then we can start really exploring how to configure things and different options. One of the, whenever you get on a Windows, whenever someone has a problem with a Windows machine with a tablet, first question you ask them is Windows Ink enabled? And you have to check both in the driver and the application. And that's something that not everyone remembers to do. And you have to make sure they match up in some way. Okay, just waiting for it to reboot. It's almost there. There we go. Let me log in. Oops. Oh, I forgot how I set up the account. Okay, we're good. Okay. And now you can see my screen again. This is Wacom stuff, all launching. Okay. So this is the Wacom Center. On Windows, you get 2 apps for Wacom. We're going to look at both just so everyone's clear. This is the Wacom Center. And so where is the Windows Ink setting? Logitech, let me turn this off. Okay. I'm actually not sure, so we're going to have to find it. Oh, what happened? Oh, Discord launched. Okay, let me move it out of the way. Here we go. So let's check in advanced. Nope. Is it, if I click on here, I don't know why it's not there. Express keys dial, display toggle. That is strange. I actually don't know why I'm not seeing Windows Ink here. That is very strange. I'll check with another tablet. That's highly unusual. We'll check. But anyway, let's look at the other app, which is Wacom Center. Oh, sorry. I mean Wacom tablet properties. Oh, they're moving stuff, huh? Into Wacom Center. That's interesting. Well, that's weird. I don't even see the Windows Ink setting here. Let me try. You know what? Because this is a little bit of a mystery, I want to dig into this. Let's see. Full Caber says, I don't know. When I once messed with those, all I know is I messed with pen. It messed with pen pressure. It can. That's how it shows it on advanced. It shows for you on advanced. I wonder what's going on then that I'm not seeing it. That's unusual. No. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. This took me a second. Yeah. This is always I always forget this about Wacom's UI. Some UI will not be shown to you unless the pen on that computer has. It'll only be shown to you if a pen has actually ever interacted with the tablet. So, and I have not, in this tablet, I've never used with this computer. So there's UI missing. I always forget this. And I have a pen. I have not touched the tablet yet. Now watch what happens. I'll touch it. And ta-da, see? UI appeared. This is the second time this year I have stumbled onto this, and I always forget, right? So that explains why Full Caber saw it. Okay. So now we're back in business, okay? So now I know. So it's good to realize that you need to touch the tablet with the pen. Okay, so let's click on Advanced, right? And what do you see here? Right over on this side, you see Windows Ink is on, okay? And remember, it's an this makes, what does this mean? If it's on, it means the driver is talking WinTab, and it will talk Windows Ink. It's bilingual. If it's off, it means the driver will only talk WinTab. It will not talk Windows Ink. Okay? So keep that in mind. Okay. Ooh. Now let's take a look at the Wacom tablet properties, which is the older app. Okay. And let me close it actually and reopen. Okay. So it should, where should it be? Yeah, it's under mapping. It's under mapping. Okay. And it says use Windows Ink. Now, actually, I'm going to try one more thing. Actually, we'll come back to it. It's a complicated topic. It's actually something Cami Luna mentioned that I need to investigate because I don't think I've ever noticed it. Okay, so again, it's the same pattern here. Because it's checked, it means it's talking, this driver is talking both Windows Ink and WinTab, okay? So this essentially is the be bilingual checkbox. Now, one more thing you need to notice here, which is true for all brands. The question is, who will it talk to with Windows Ink? And you notice the configuration in here says all. So this applies to all applications. It'll be bilingual. It'll talk both Windows Ink and WinTab, right? That's how you see the applications there. And then where do you see the app? Here, it's all applications, okay? And this is a preview for later. You can actually override the behavior for specific applications, okay? Now, I'm gonna need to take a little bit of a bio break, and then I'm gonna come back and we're gonna cover applications and dive in deeper. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and we were looking at how an application worked, okay? And we're not going to change anything yet. I just wanted you to, you have to just remember what this setting does. It controls whether Windows Ink is being used. WinTab is always being used with the driver. And we also said this setting applies to all applications, okay? Now, let's take a look at an application. Now here's where it gets a little complicated. Let's open up Krita. Hi, Charlie Martian. We're doing a Windows Ink discussion today. Oh, how do I prevent this darn thing? I hate this that Discord pop-up. Okay, let's go ahead and do a new image, simply because I want to have one ready. And I lost a screen while I was gone. That was weird. One of my displays turned off or something. Give me a second. I don't know why that happened. Okay. Yeah, the tablet I was drawing on when I came back to my desk just turned off. So that was unusual. It says it's... Okay, who knows? Let me disconnect and reconnect. You know, that solves everything, right? Oh, wow, okay. Sorry, just gotta make sure this thing is on again. Okay, yeah, now it's back to normal. That was unusual, I don't know what caused that. In any case, we're back. Let's take a look at Clip Studio. Krita. Okay, now, here's the catch. Every app will have the setting in a different place. Okay? To turn off the Discord thing, you go to App Settings and turn off the overlay. Okay, thank you. I will do that toward the end of the stream, because I hate that thing. It is such an irritation for me. Okay, in Krita, it's here. It's under Settings, Configure Krita. And we're on Windows, so we go to Tablet Settings. And if you're on Mac, you will not see this, but on Windows, you see Tablet Input API. So Tablet Input API is, that's the kind of thing, that's the choice you're making here, and that's the language. Now notice it says something interesting here. Changing this requires restarting Krita. It is, even though some apps say you don't need to restart, if you're going to change the setting, always restart the app. Always restart the app, okay? Now notice something. I've been using Krita with WinTab, right? That means Krita is talking WinTab, and the driver is set to talk either language. Therefore, this works, right? Because I'm speaking with a bilingual, so to speak, driver. So does it work? Let's draw. Yep, it's drawing. Okay, let me give you the overhead so it's a little more visually. It's working. It's fine. It's using WinTab. Okay. Now, sometimes it doesn't. It's not always true. You might notice weird problems with applications. Like right now, this doesn't look right. Look at this. Do you see this? Actually, I'm going to save this because it's an example of weird. I don't know if it's directly due to the fact WinTab is being used, but sometimes I've seen that. Okay. And it's not wobble. I know it looks like wobble. This is actually kind of I forgot Cube he was explaining what this really is, but it's basically not using high enough resolution data from the pen. That's the short way that's probably the simplest way of thinking about it. That's why you're seeing it kind of bump. Also, by the way, the pen is drawing while it's hovering. So there's just weird stuff going on. Okay, now it fixed itself. See, that was like a temporary problem. Now the lines are looking okay. That was unusual. Let me look again. Oh no, there's a different problem. It's a different problem. But anyway, don't focus on that. But if you do see any kind of problem with pressure or you can't track the motion, switch it to the other kind, okay? So let's go ahead and just do it. Let's go back to Settings, Configure Krita. I was already on WinTab. I switched to Windows, and there's no WinInk. Well, sorry, there is WinInk, but notice it says Windows 8 pointer input. And you'll notice this in a lot of apps. Let me show it to you more clearly. You'll see this in a lot of apps. Sometimes they just don't use the word Windows Ink, because Windows Ink as a word was introduced in 2012. That phrase started to get used. Before that, they'd say tablet PC, or some apps will say this Windows 8 or Windows 8 pointer API. So that's a little complication. So I'm going to switch it. And remember, you should always restart the app. So I hit OK, and let's just restart Krita. And let's see if it makes any difference at all. I'm hoping it does. Okay, let's get back to the same thing. Let's see. Well, it's working, right? And I'm not getting that same problem, by the way. See? You see what I'm saying? I'm not getting it. I'm not getting that weird quantization problem, right? So I'm not saying you'll get that WinTab causes that quantization problem. I was using WinTab yesterday, fine with Krita, but sometimes weird things happen, and for whatever reason, they occur, and you have to switch APIs, switch languages, okay? Now, I said that apps would have it in different places. They'd call it different things. It's actually useful to see what would actually happen. So I'm going to open up, where's my Chrome browser? I'm going to open up my Git book, and let's go check in my Windows Ink documentation. Okay. So yeah, this is what Krita does, right? But take a look at Clip Studio Paint does. It gives you a choice between WinTab and Tablet PC. Here, Tablet PC means Windows Ink, right? So that gets complicated. This is Krita we already looked at. Photoshop is really messed up. You have to edit a text file, and it's a mess. Affinity, this was an Affinity photo. You have to go to Settings, Tools, and change the tablet input method, right? And here it's funny. They give you three choices: low precision, high precision, Windows Ink. So the low and high are WinTab, even though it doesn't say that. ArtRage has, under ArtRage preferences under tablet options. Now this is unusual. Most apps don't show this way. This is a checkbox for use WinTab or not. And there's an X here, meaning no. So it's not using WinTab, meaning it's using Windows Ink. So they should probably change this UI because it's just a very weird one. But you can see how different this can look. We'll look at a few others. Fire Alpaca. I don't have a screenshot, but it's what? You have to pick Tablet PC. Medibang. They actually say Windows Ink. Rebel. Yeah, they have. Rebel has 4 options, right? And one is it says WinTab. They call it Wacom compatible WinTab. So it can really vary. Okay, so let's go back again and make sure we're on the same page about how the default settings should be. And it should look like this. Yeah, this is my recommendation. Okay? That is my recommendation. And I'm going to see if this works. I don't know if it will. I'm going to copy this, create a new whiteboard. What if you need to turn off Windows Ink? Here's how you should do it. Okay, great. It actually pasted almost correctly. Okay, let me erase a little bit. If you want to turn it off, you don't need to set both. Remember, the driver is always talking WinTab, okay? Turn it off in the app like this by going to WinTab and then restart the app, okay? You don't need to change the driver. So this is also a valid configuration. So to turn off WinTab. Okay, this is all you should need to do. Now, to be fair, some of you, and I've seen this occasionally, if you really want to be sure, let me copy this again. Let's Control C, create a new whiteboard. Hang on. There we go. If you really want to be sure, you could do this. Right? You'd uncheck that also. So this is like another option. But this creates a problem. This creates, whenever you change the driver setting, just like this, there's a problem that gets created. Let's talk about what that problem is. Whew, man. So let's consider you have several apps, right? Krita. And Krita can, you can make it choose between WT for WinTab and WI for WinInk, okay? But some apps, I think Notepad is one, or OneNote. They only support Windows Ink, right? And usually legacy apps support, so some legacy app. Or some app that you're having a problem with, right? Let's say Clip. So in this case, I'm going to say that, how can I do this? Legacy apps only support WinTab, but Clip supports WinTab or Windows Ink, but it might be configured to use only WinTab. So I'm going to put a heavy border here for how it's configured, okay? WinTab, this one's configured to use Windows Ink. Well, in the driver, if you disable, actually, let's start with the simple case. If you have the checkbox and it says Windows Ink here, I'll just abbreviate to WinInk. Will this work? Will this driver setting work with all apps? Right? And the answer is yes. This is actually valid. This will work. Remember, the driver is always talking WinTab. So it'll actually handle these cases. Let me put in Clip Studio Paint there so I am clear. Clip Studio Paint. Okay? So this is a good valid setting. Let's copy paste this and do another sort of like invalid set. Let's there we go. And that was there we go. Control C, new whiteboard, and Control V. Okay, what about this setting where I don't have WinInk here? Well, this is not going to work. This is a no, right? It's going to break these cases. Since this only talks WinTab, this is going to get busted, and this is going to get busted, right? Because it will not speak WinTab. It's only talking it's not talking Windows Ink, and these apps are only talking Windows Ink. Okay, this wants to speak WinTab. These only speak Windows Ink. That's the communication problem. Let's test this out. What actually happens? It's not an all or nothing. It's not like everything breaks, but let's test out the effect. Okay, when you do this. So let me get a different brush because that'll be easier to show you the effect. Okay, Let me start a new document as well, because I want to preserve this effect here. File, new. Okay, so this isn't too special. You can see what's happening here. What's happening? I'm getting pressure, okay? And let's just confirm, how is this set up? It says Windows 8, pointer input, Windows Inc. And what does Wacom Center say? It says Windows Inc. Okay? Let me just turn this off. Now, when you turn it off in the driver, you don't need to reboot the system or anything. You just can turn it off immediately. Okay? And just to make everything like totally clear, let's restart Krita. I'd prefer to restart Krita if I made any kind of setting change like that. Or restart any app, actually. Let's create a document. Okay, now what happens? Well, it's still tracking the pen. Stupid overlay. Let's look at the settings again. We're saying use Windows Inc. And different apps will do different things. Will this work still? Now in this case, it still works. Why is that? Why might that be? Probably, I'm guessing the reason is it's falling back to Windows Inc. Okay? That's probably the reason. So in some cases, you might not notice the difference. Like it might not break an app at all. Okay? But let's find an app where it will break. Okay? So let me turn it on again. And I'm going to go to my favorite app, which is my tablet tester app. Okay. So tablet integration or pen integration with the browsers always uses Windows Inc. So let's find my tablet tester, which uses the browser, pointer API, pen API. Let's try that again. I didn't click on it correctly. Okay. So it's using Windows Inc. Everything's working. And let's see what happens if I try to turn it off. It's still working. I don't even know why it's not working. Why it's still working. It shouldn't actually work. I didn't restart Chrome. Yeah, usually this will break things. I certainly have apps which will, so I can double check it. But as you can see, sometimes it doesn't break things. More often what you'll see is you lose pressure. The pen will still work, you still point and draw, but you lose pressure. Let's try this again. Oh no. Maybe on Edge? It's kind of a mystery here. Set later. Yeah, a little bit of a mystery. This really should not be working. So I got to debug why that is. But yeah, most of the time what you'll see is not that the pen won't work, it'll just not work in certain ways. And usually that way is pressure. But in this case it's working, so I'll have to again figure out what's... I'm not sure if it's working as well. In fact, I think it is working... Maybe even... The lines look a bit strange to me. So I'll have to figure that out. Oh, I'm stupid. I've been doing something wrong. I'm drawing with on the Asus, which uses WinInk only. So that's why it was working. I'm not drawing on the Wacom. That's what the issue is. Okay, no worries. I'm sorry for the confusion. So we'll go back to Krita. Okay. So let's make sure Krita is set correctly. Or sorry, Krita is, let's double check what Krita is set to. Now I'm drawing on the Wacom, okay? It's set to use Windows Inc. And then the Wacom Windows Inc. is off. So it's using WinTab. Now let's draw. Still getting pressure. Oh, no, I'm drawing on the Asus. Oh, I did it again. Okay. I just see the screen in front of me. I naturally start drawing. Okay. Let Let me do one more configuration here so that I'm mapping to the right place. That's so embarrassing. There we go. Here we go. Okay. Now I'm drawing on the Wacom. What do you see? No pressure. I can still move the pen around. And just to show you this more clearly, I am drawing on the Wacom. See, there's no pressure, but I can move the pen. There's probably no tilt either, and we can take a look at that. Let's see. Because there's a little tablet tester tool. And you can see if you draw here, yeah, there's no pressure and there's no tilt. Okay? So we lose those features. It's not like everything breaks, but we lose those features. And if we go back here to the Wacom Center, man, that was so funny that I did that. Drawing on the wrong tablet. Let's, sorry, I need to go back to the pen here. Oh, where is it actually? Under Advanced, there we go. Let's turn on Windows Ink, go back to Krita, and it's not having an effect, right? Because I need to restart Krita. Because the sort of the configuration is changed in the driver. So let's go back. That's the thing that I do think people forget to do is restart the app. And where's my... Okay, what do you notice? I've got pressure again, okay? So it works. Now let's see what happens in the browser. Okay, I'm drawing on the Wacom. I have pressure. And then I turn off Windows Ink. And I won't restart. Let's just see what happens. I lost pressure, right? Just lost it. Let's go back and turn on and verify it. And I'm back. Okay, so now we have an app that only talks in Windows Ink, which is the browser. And we have an app that we can configure. How do we get a case where... so going back to this thing, sorry, where's my browser? Oh, let's find it. I'm trying to find my whiteboard. And I wanted this one. So I said, if we disabled the Windows Ink here, we'd break things. And we'd break things because we have some apps which are either configured not to use WinTab, but they're configured to use Windows Ink, or they can only use Windows Ink. So how do we meet this mixed case, right? And that's easy. Remember that this setting applies to all applications, but in the driver, we can make it work for some apps. So let's do that. Let's make it so Krita uses WinTab, but the browser uses Windows Ink. The browser only uses Windows Ink, so I don't need to configure the browser. Let's configure Krita to use WinTab. We'll have to restart Krita too. WinTab. Okay. Remember, we got to restart it. Nope. Let me restart after I change the driver. Go back to the driver, and then let's take a look at these settings. So Windows Ink is on for all applications, right? And I suggest you leave it on. What we're going to do is we're going to selectively, or keep the driver bilingual. That's what that means. We're going to selectively, I need Krita up for this one. Krita. Is it up? Yep. Now that it's up, we're going to add it as an application. Okay? And for Krita specifically, notice I'm selecting Krita here. I'm going to turn off Windows Ink. Okay? So if you go to all applications, Windows Ink is on. If we go to Krita, Windows Ink is off. Now let's restart Krita. Oh, we already did. It should work now. Right, create a document. Let's verify the settings. WinTab. Let's start drawing. Yep, pressure's there. See, I have complete pressure. What about the browser? I have pressure in the browser. Everything works. Okay. So again, this shows you how to configure things correctly, which is, this shows you the wrong configuration. Let me select the correct configuration. Let's erase this and copy. Let me try that again. I messed that up. Okay, copy that. Create a new whiteboard and paste. So in this case, we can get rid of these red X's because it's all going to work. What we do is we do WinInk for all apps, but we check that. We uncheck it for Krita specifically, right? And in this case, theoretically, I have CSP unchecked there, so sorry, this thing is drawn backwards. So in this case, it's CSP, not Krita, that has the thing. So we want CSP to only use WinTab, and we want this legacy app, whatever it's called, to use WinTab, and that's it. Okay. This is how to configure it to make sure everything's turned off correctly, right? Now, which is better between Windows Ink and WinTab? Well, so before you get to that, you can invert these settings. Like you could actually check these and uncheck these, reverse the settings. You'd have to switch which apps applied, but I think this is the easiest case because most apps work with WinTab or Windows Ink now. So this is, I think, my recommended thing, right? And again, you shouldn't need to create these force WinTab on the driver, but occasionally it is required, right? But I just want to show you which cases, what it looks like. But normally you can just, I'll cover it with my hand. You can just do this and everything will just work out. But sometimes you do need to turn it off for specific apps, okay? Okay, so which one is better? Well, this is a little complicated. The truth is, both will mess up at some point. I have used, let's say, Clip Studio Paint for a year using WinTab, and it works. And one day, I sneeze, and then suddenly something doesn't work right, and I switch to Windows Ink. And the same in reverse happens with Windows Ink. I use it for a year, and then something happens. Maybe Windows gets updated or the driver gets updated, and I just have to switch back to WinTab. I don't know what causes that. I do think WinTab probably is better technically, but you shouldn't be able to notice the difference, okay? Anyway, I think I covered the basics of how to configure WinTab and why you should and what it means. And I think armed with this knowledge, you should be able to know what you need to do for any if you get a new tablet or having problems. Because if you're a Windows user and you use a drawing tablet, you will encounter this issue. Okay, I think that's it for this stream. I wanted to keep it not too long because, again, I wanted to focus on a very specific topic. There's one thing, and there's one more thing before I go. Cami Luna said something which intrigued me, which I never realized. And I was like, is that real? And what she said was that these settings were per pen. With Wacom, the other drivers probably don't do this. So let me get another pen and we're going to try it because this is interesting. I never considered this. Okay, I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. I see we have a comment from Full Caber. I always struggled with those WinTab and Windows Ink with CSP. Yeah. Again, I would start using with WinTab and switch if you need to. And now you know how to switch correctly. Okay, so Cami Luna, she said something, which if I understood correctly, remember I said you could turn off Windows Ink, you could configure Windows Ink in the driver for different applications. She said you could do it by pen. That's interesting. That's actually, and we're going to test this theory out. Okay. I just don't even, that's weird. If that's true, that'd be weird, but let's see. I can believe it, but I have not seen that. But I think she may be right with Wacom. So I've been using it with a generic Samsung S Pen, this Wacom small Intuos Pro Small, and you can see it. When you use these UD EMR pens, it just says pen. So this could be an S Pen or a Wacom CP913, etc., etc. Now I've got the Pro Pen 3 here, and I'm going to touch the tablet, and now you see Pro Pen 3. And I think Cami Luna is right. I never thought about this, but actually, let's see. The pen has it off, and the Pro Pen 3 has it on. So it looks like, okay, let's see if this works then. Okay, so Pro Pen 3 is using Windows Ink, but the pen is not. What will actually happen? This is weird. That's weird. Okay, let's go to an app that only uses Windows Ink, which, by the way, is this OneNote, this tester app. Okay, let me clear the tester. I'm going to draw with the pen that is using WinTab. Or sorry, this is the Samsung S Pen, and this is the Pro Pen. I'm not seeing a difference. Let me, let's try this thing. How is Krita set? Krita is set to use WinTab only. So what's going to happen here? So this is the S Pen, and then this is oops. Yeah, it's working in both cases. I don't, okay, let me try restarting Krita. I'm just really curious. I'm not sure how to interpret it if it works for both pens. Clearly the setting implies you can do it for specific pens, but does it actually do the thing the UI says? Okay, this is with the Pro Pen 3, and this is with the, wait a second. So how is Krita configured again? It's configured to use WinTab, and in Wacom driver, the normal pen is using WinTab, but the Pro Pen 3 is using, this should mean WinTab and Windows Ink, okay? So the Pro Pen 3 should work, and so should the normal pen, because let's see if that's true though. The normal pen works. Pro Pen 3 works, but there's no pressure. That's... Am I crazy? Why was the Pro Pen 3? Krita's using WinTab, but the Pro Pen 3 is configured to use both. Why would one pen work but not the other for pressure? Now, it's a little bit of a mystery. So Cami Luna was right. The setting does seem to actually affect the pens. But I don't understand why it's not. Yeah, I have to think about this one. Okay, it's a bit of an advanced case. It's a bit of an advanced case, but it's worthy to think of. But it's worthy to point out, though, that this setting does apply per pen, because that might be affecting some people, right? In any case, if you did have multiple pens, I would say start off by configuring them the same, okay? Or get one pen to work, then configure the other pen the same way, right? What about these applications? Do they apply? The weird, oh, wait a second. Okay, I know what's going on. Let's get rid of the configuration for Krita. Because they both have a Krita configuration, so let's remove that, okay? And that was doing things. And let's restart Krita. I think that's what was causing the mystery for me. Let's see. Quit. Do you want to save? No, I don't want to save that. Okay, so I'm going to just restart Krita. You still got the cough, Mir? Very sorry to hear that. I myself feel like I'm getting sick. It's gotten worse since Saturday. Okay, and we have to confirm to ourselves again. Krita is using WinTab. So both pens should work. Both pens should work, okay? Let's go back to the driver. Verify what the pens are set to. Windows Ink for the normal pen, and for the Pro Pen 3, let's do WinTab, okay? So both cases should work. That's the theory, anyway. Because both should use WinTab. Okay. Okay, now we set Krita to use Windows Ink and restart Krita. We don't need to reconfigure the driver. Now only one of the pens should work, and that pen will be the one using Windows Ink. The Pro Pen 3 should not have pressure. Okay? So this is interesting. Let's see. I hate that stupid Discord thing. I'm gonna have to turn it off. Okay. So this is the normal pen. Does it work? Yep. You can see it clearly has pressure. Now what about the Pro Pen 3? This should not have pressure. And it doesn't. Cami Luna has been proven correct. In a very weird, it's so wild. So it looks like this setting is per pen and even per app, right? So you can tell the one pen model, or not one pen, that model of pen to behave one way with a set of apps, and tell another pen to behave another way with a set of apps. Whew, that is some the distinction between apps is made in other drivers, but not between pens. So this is a little bit of an unusual thing for Wacom specifically. But this is good. I actually learned something today. I never even thought about this case. Okay, I think we've covered it all. This was a good session. I think I'm going to make a video on this, and now I know how to structure it. So if anyone has any questions, let me know. I should get a video out hopefully in a couple of days. And with that, I thank you all. Amir, we were just doing a little bit of explaining of how to configure Windows Ink on drawing tablets and in drivers and in applications. So I'm going to take what I did here and make a more standard video about it. And I think I may be streaming later on in the day. This was just, I wanted to focus this session on Windows Ink. Okay, everyone, thanks for your time. And as always, this is such an enjoyable little event we have. Okay, I'll see you all.